Is it possible for a practicing Catholic convert to miss some things about Protestantism and hold those things as dear and still cherish them and wish that it was something that Catholicism had? Hello, everyone. My name is Emmy, and I'm here with my husband.
Eric?
And today we are going to talk about those things that we miss from our former religions, at least from Protestantism. So, Eric, you converted from Lutheranism
Mhm.
specifically. Are there things that you miss about that faith that we don't have now as Catholics?
Yes, first and foremost, and this is going to kind of sound confusing to our Catholic listeners, but the thing that I miss about Protestantism, or at least my synod, my specific synod, my local parish, is how united we were
Mm-hmm.
in our faith and in our morals.
Oh,
Okay? Yeah. I know it's a disproportionate analogy because it's on such a smaller scale. You know, our synod was, I don't know, maybe a few 100,000 perhaps, and our local parish was 500 to 1,000. I don't know. I'm just throwing a
yeah.
number out there. So, when you compare that to the entire Catholic Church of 1.2 billion, it's not the best analogy. However, when I was a Lutheran in my Protestant parish, I missed the unity in that specific parish. Not just on the confessions of faith, but also on the morals. Like abortion, pro-life versus pro-choice. As you guys know, in the Catholic Church, we have a mixed bag, unfortunately, within the individual members in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to reiterate that it's not really a fair analogy because you're talking about one little sect of Protestantism versus the whole group of the Catholic Church, right?
Right.
The comparable thing would be Protestantism,
Yes.
which there's divided into many sects, different sects, and not united in their beliefs at all.
Yeah.
That's my pushback,
That's, yeah.
and I think to be fair too to our Catholic brothers and sisters, I think for most parishes in conservative cities, there's unity.
Of course. No, I'm not saying that it's completely
Yeah.
divided.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that you bring that up about Protestantism as a whole in general, and it is divided on faith and morals. To my knowledge, most Protestants and evangelicals are all pro life.
Mm.
Will you have an outlier here or there that's pro choice? Sure. But one of the biggest disappointments or shocks to me when I converted to Catholicism was the number of Catholics who were pro choice. You know those signs? So during voting, the election seasons, and voting for president and state and local or whatever, there are these signs that says Catholics for choice or pro-choice Catholics, or I'm a Democrat who's Catholic, or just they really want to voice their opinion that they're pro-choice on the matter of abortion while maintaining their Catholic faith. That was, like I said, that was a shock because in my limited experience at my small parish, in my small synod in the upper, Midwest, I didn't know of any Lutheran or even Protestant for that matter that was pro choice when it came to abortion.
Now, the question, several questions. So, first, what is it pro choice on a scale, though? Because you know how some people, like for us at least, the dogma of our faith, or if that's what you want to call it, is life begins at conception.
Yep.
And so, no, intentional like destroying of life as soon as it's conceived.
Right.
Um, and I just wonder if Protestants are the same or if there's a sliding scale. And that, yeah. And then the second thing is also like, I think that Catholics, um, how do I say this? I don't know. It feels like maybe because they stand out more, that you will get groups that kind of target their faith because they have a more united front, like in terms of the bishops and such.
Mm.
And so you would get those political groups that are kind of targeting and trying to divide Catholics by saying, by establishing groups like Catholics for pro choice, when really, like,
Mm-hmm.
how much do you practice your Catholic faith? You may have been baptized as a
Ah,
Catholic,
yeah, okay.
but are you dedicated as a Catholic? But maybe you're claiming that label in order to be able to divide
Ha!
the Catholics,
Wow, that's interesting.
whereas maybe you think it's too far fetched?
No, not at all. Not
Okay.
at all.
Whereas maybe like that kind of strength, this like opposition to these kinds of things
Mm-hmm.
is not as present in the
Yes.
Protestant faiths because they're so divided, right? Like if there was so many Lutherans like and becoming politically active because I think that's part of like the Catholic faith and especially if you're Opus Dei, just like bringing glory to God and like bringing that into everything in your work, and just being strong. I think just we just have a history of political action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point because obviously in the Catholic Church and her members, there are many lukewarm or even non practicing Catholics. Like you said, they're just baptized nominal Catholics.
And we can't kick them out.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
I'm just kidding.
I mean,
But,
they kick
yeah.
themselves out, at least in the heart or whatever. But
Yeah, yeah.
so, yeah, in Protestantism, it's interesting because I was a Lutheran, so I can't speak for every Protestant denomination
Mm-hmm.
and every Protestant in America,
Right.
right? But in my experience, I mean, are there lukewarm Protestants? Of course. Are there non practicing Protestants who have been baptized? Of course. But again, in my experience, that lukewarmness, that nominalism, is more prevalent in Catholicism. That's just my experience. I'm not saying that's gospel or fact, but in my experience. So when you say like there are Catholics who are pro choice, well, how Catholic are you really? Are you even practicing? Are you devout? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I feel like everybody nowadays say they're Christian, but they believe in, you know what I'm saying? Like, and some of them are
Mm.
even Christians and they practice New Age things because,
Oh, yeah.
and
So kind of like fundamental Christians that don't really believe in organized religion or ecclesiology. They're,
right.
th- whether they're baptized or not, they just claim to, I'm a follower and disciple of Jesus Christ. I have faith in God, and it's just Jesus, me, and my Bible, and I'm my own authority or whatever.
Right. They're more
Yeah,
just like individualistic American, like that individualistic American spirit versus
yeah,
really truly Christian.
yeah. But again, in my experience as a Lutheran, in my limited experience with obviously a smaller population, I never came across any Lutheran or Protestant pastor or parishioner that was pro-choice. Now, obviously, in different sects of Protestantism and denominations, you're going to have differences in teaching on morals. Like, for instance, the Anglican Church has, women priests, uh, priests, yeah, who happen to be lesbian. So the whole LGBTQT movement and agenda and ideology has kind of seeped into the Anglican Church. Likewise, with a sect of Lutheranism called the ELCA,
Hmm.
and I'm sure other sects of Protestantism. So it's not like they're immune from it, but it's just how prevalent it is within the unity, if I can say that, within the unity of Catholic individual members. It's like it was shocking to me. So what I miss about my limited experience from being a Protestant was the unity on faith and morals, insofar as
In your little group.
right, but still, like if it's disproportionate, it still is a sad reality that I'm coming into the Catholic Church thinking one holy Catholic and apostolic complete unity on faith and morals. And it's like, holy cow, the Catholic Church in the United States, in her individual members, are starkly divided on morals, but even faith too. And it's just like, what is going on?
Reality check. Yeah, reality check.
Yeah, so it's disheartening to see so much division within the Catholic individuals. So the Catholic Church in her teachings completely unified in her dogmas and her doctrines on faith and morals. There's no division there inherently in the teachings. But then you have the wheat and the weeds. Those refer to us, like the individuals. You're always going to have Judases in the church.
Yeah.
It just seems like we got a lot of them in the United States. So.
Well, I think it's also a journey, and it's an inevitability of a global church. And I think it's a journey. I kind of struggle with that, like, oh, people being labeled as just weeds, because that kind of signifies a permanent, a sort of permanence, or maybe some people are on a journey. Like, I remember not being completely pro-choice when I was, so I could have definitely leaned that way as a Catholic.
I would never label anyone as a weed.
Okay.
Ever.
Okay. But I'm just saying, like, it's a journey, and we're a family, and we're all growing in the faith.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, I'm not casting pharisaical stones of judgment at anybody. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I'm better than any. It's not like that. I'm just saying I wasn't expecting, to come across individual Catholics who would be pro-choice. Like, to me, that is just unthinkable. It's just unthinkable even if you're a nominal Catholic, you don't go to Mass, you don't really practice. Just to say that you're a baptized Catholic and you're pro-choice is just baffling to me.
Did you not know about Biden or Pelosi before you became Catholic?
No.
Oh,
I didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't know about Biden before he became president. I mean, he was a senator for how many years or whatever, but yeah, I wasn't into that. But.
Oh, and I guess you wouldn't have known about Dianne Feinstein or Nancy Pelosi
nothing,
because you weren't a Californian. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, another thing is that I miss about being a Lutheran or a Protestant. Again, disproportionate, much smaller group. So, but nonetheless, our pastor, or if you even want to say the president of our synod, but our pastor, our parish pastor, nobody protested him. Nobody slandered him. Nobody really questioned him publicly or whatever. Again, very small set of people, or very small group. Well, coming in the Catholic Church, our pastor of the Catholic Church is the Pope Francis. And I just can't believe, I mean, literally ever since I was confirmed and entered into the Catholic Church, I can't even believe the amount and prevalence of anti-Pope Francis or slandering him and protesting him, his teachings, his words. It's just, see, I left Protestantism and protesting, like authority and all that stuff. Even though my pastor, nobody did that, but I come into Catholicism in the United States, so many Catholics are protesting him and just caricaturing him and so on and so on and so forth. And I wasn't expecting that either. Mm-hmm. So I really miss, how docile the parishioners were to our pastor. Again, apples to oranges in terms of size. It's not a global church. It's not universal. This is a synod that's primarily upper Midwest, but it's spread across the United States.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's hard the bigger you get, and it sounds so far to me like what you're really missing, their results. They result from the fact that your community, of believers, were such a small group.
Yeah.
And it's not something possible in a global organized faith.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But nonetheless, this is something I wished for and hoped for and thought that this was going to be the reality of joining the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Call me naive
Yeah.
or, wishful thinking, fine. But I just wasn't expecting it. And then, the Catholic Church is universal and global. It's all, 1.2 million members across the globe, right? We live in the United States, so we can't speak for other countries. But as far as I know, from what I see, online and in the news, it's mostly United States cardinals, bishops, priests, and especially laity that are attacking Pope Francis and that are they're the ones creating the confusion and the division in the United States.
Because we're here and we don't speak like German, for example, and know what the German bishops might be saying.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's just, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so unity and
Oh, so one last thing. So this is kind of something that I've noticed, and this is just purely online. It's virtual, so this isn't, something I experienced personally in real life. But so Christian or Catholic apologetics, whatever you want to call it, defending the faith online, all the YouTube channels and Twitter accounts and et cetera, et cetera. There's, again, just this stark division between Catholic apologists, like lay Catholic apologists, lay Catholic theologians, who will criticize each other, and they're like against each other, and they'll slander each other. Does that happen in Protestantism? I don't really see it as much as I see Catholics attacking other Catholics in online apologetics. Yes. And again, it's just, again, kind of trivial. It's not like, well, this is something I missed when I was a Protestant, but it's just, I didn't expect this. And I just, just the division and the fighting and the polemical dispositions and attitudes towards each other in Catholicism in the United States, I just wasn't expecting. And that's something I miss for my small Lutheran paradigm or whatever.
Well, if we probably started kicking people out, we would have more unity.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Yeah.
Well,
I think we need to pray and to fast.
Yeah.
That's what we need. And it's just like in a family, you just have to walk through it, walk with them.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus said to Peter, haul the net ashore full of fish, good and bad. But Jesus is the one at the end of the day, at the end of time, that's going to separate the good from the bad, not us. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else?
On unity?
Or no, that general? You miss in general from...
So, again, smaller group, smaller parish.
I just feel like it's not a fair comparison.
Well, again, it's something I miss and wish that I had in Catholicism. So it's a disillusionment, and it's not, jibing with reality much in the unfair comparison. But nonetheless, I miss it, and I wish I had it in Catholicism. No matter how big the Catholic Church is and how many members are a part of it. But so yeah, pastor of my Lutheran denomination was very accessible and available to his parishioners. And I would never have to wait to hear back from him or for his reply. He was always, on the ball and ready to be able to help in any need, with questions or whatever. And I realized that parish pastors in Catholicism, at least in the Western Latin Roman Rite, depending on the size of the parish, they have a lot more responsibilities than, say, a Lutheran pastor.
I think God is sharpening you And it's just giving you more opportunity for sanctification and growing in patience when
Sure.
it comes to that. I don't know. I just, yeah, I feel like their loads are a lot more when it comes to like bigger parishes. I
Mm-hmm.
know though for a fact, because we were married already and living when we were in a different state, like our we had such a handful of priests that were available to us and
Mm-hmm.
that would avail themselves of us for us, and just, you know, you can easily contact them anytime,
Mm-hmm.
have them come over, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah, I just think it depends on the community and how big their responsibility is.
that's true. So in Catholicism, we have pastors. So every priest is a priest, but not every priest is a pastor, if that makes sense. So at a parish, you'll have one pastor. Maybe he's the only priest, the only clergy there. But in bigger parishes, you'll have a pastor who's a priest, but then you'll have associate pastors that help and aid the pastor. But nonetheless, there is a pastor there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because a lot of the associate pastors who are, they're priests, they're not pastors. They have a lot of responsibilities, but not as much as the pastor of the
Mm-hmm.
parish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's unfortunate in my experience is a lot of these priests that I've tried to contact or get in touch with either just straight up ignore me. And I'm not judging or saying they're doing it deliberately, but just straight up ignore me or take a week or even 2 weeks to get back to me. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't want to speculate, but it's like, gosh, just responding to an email and you know what I mean? So I mean, I'm just saying that that's something I miss when I was a Lutheran. Again, I get the differences and the bad comparison, but I wish priests or parish pastors in Catholic parishes would make themselves die to themselves more, be more available, and make an effort to really get to know us personally. Like, for instance, we know a mutual priest who's now a bishop in Minnesota, Father Eisen, Bishop Eisen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had a rather large parish. I mean, it wasn't like 3,000 people.
It wasn't. I don't know how big it
Okay,
was.
nonetheless. So he was the pastor of two churches,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah.
kind of, a mile apart or whatever. And, there was a school attached.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the effort to get to know every single student by name.
Amazing.
By name.
Not just students, like,
Well, and parishioners, right?
yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
staff.
Now, yeah,
Yeah.
he's a bishop now.
I know. So great.
I mean, Bishop Eisen. What if he were to watch this?
Hello.
Hello, hi, Bishop, Your Eminence. But yeah, it's possible. It takes heroic virtue, especially in the Catholic paradigm, considering all the responsibilities and all the parishioners. Like, I'm realistic. I get that. I'm pragmatic about that. But it's just, I've just noticed certain pastors and or priests who struggle with, making that extra effort of really wanting to get to know their parishioners or replying to emails and phone calls and
Or
stuff.
like husbands replying to their wives' text messages or emails.
Name one text
Oh,
that you've
God.
texted me that I took me like 2 or 3 days to get back to you.
I can name a few that you don't even get back to me
See,
at
that's
all.
why. Okay, that's why I'm not a
I
parish
wish
pastor.
you would die to yourself more.
That's why I'm
You
not a
have this
parish pastor.
vocation of being like the priest of your house, of your
Yeah.
domestic church.
Well, I'm probably changing diapers and
Yeah, oh, well, then maybe they're giving last rites or something.
at least I know my kids by name and my
They
wife
know,
by name.
I'm sure they know you.
Yeah, but yeah. So I know this seems superficial,
Mm.
but nonetheless, I'm not attached to priests and pastors. I'm not, like, oh my gosh, I need my pastor to really know me by name, and I need him to talk to me after every mass, and we got to go fishing and all. No, 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 it's not that. It's just that availability and accessibility. I wish, my emails and phone calls would get um, responded to, in a timely in a realistic fashion. That's all. I mean, it's trivial. It's not a big deal, but that's something I miss about my Lutheran pastor. I wish I had that. That's all.
I just think, again, it's just you're in the Catholic Church now, and it's just moments of sanctification.
Yeah.
It's for your greater good.
Again, I'm not mad. I'm not scandalized. I don't lose sleep over any of this.
You
I'm
should be
just,
grateful.
I'm grateful. I'm just saying these are things that I miss about being a Protestant Lutheran. That's all. And I just, yeah. So I'm really giving props to my Lutheran pastor, and he was a great pastor. He's a great man.
That's great.
Yeah, he's awesome. So
I bet he answers his wife's text messages.
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. See, he has to handle his family and his parish. I mean, I know it's a smaller parish, but nonetheless.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Yeah. Last thing that I miss in Protestantism. So let's talk about sermons. We call them homilies, but in Protestantism, they call them sermons. Sermon on the Mount. I mean, yeah, anyways. It's just the exposition or expounding of God's written word. And when I was a Lutheran, the sermon was the apex, the climax, the central focus of the liturgy or the worship service, right? Because we don't have this, you don't have the sacrifice of the Mass, the liturgy of the Eucharist, you don't have that. And although the sermons obviously contained things that I don't agree with now, doctrinally, obviously, I don't adhere to them. And although they were rather a little too long, they were. I don't know if you noticed, like in Protestantism, but especially in evangelicalism, there are sermons that are like 45, 50 minutes.
I remember.
Wait, you remember what?
Well, I used to go when I was in college.
Oh.
I would go, but I mean, like, I would still always go to Sunday Mass. But did I excommunicate myself in that way?
Just by attending a Protestant service?
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Okay.
I mean, well, if you missed Mass deliberately.
No.
Oh, no, you can go.
I was just like checking it out,
Yeah.
flirting.
But anyway, so, in Protestantism and in Catholicism, you're going to have good homilies and bad homilies, or good sermons and bad sermons. It depends. It depends on the priest. It depends on the preacher. I get that. Well, I was fortunate to have a really good preacher in my Lutheran pastor.
Nice.
I mean, he just was.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. Again, I don't agree with a lot of the doctrine that's embedded in his sermons, but his sermons were very edifying, very relevant, applicable. Okay? And again, are there Catholic priests in the Catholic Church that have homilies that are edifying, relevant, and applicable? Absolutely. Some of the best homilies I've ever heard, and if you want to call it a sermon, were in the Catholic Church. However, in the Catholic Church, I've experienced not just like poor homiletics, but you can almost sense that it's the priest whoever's preaching, just it seems like he didn't prepare, or he's just going off the cuff, or he's not really focusing on certain aspects of or elements of his parishioners that whatever it is they need to hear.
3 things. First, I think, again, it's that like apples to oranges unfair comparison, because you had one pastor that now you're comparing, like, the Catholic experience of like, because we are Catholic, we're able to church hop and experience different ones. But if you were to do like a truly fair comparison, you might want to compare that pastor with the one pastor of, say, like Saint Michael's in Prior Lake, or Saints Peter and Paul. And I just feel like that's a more fair comparison, that rather than comparing the one to a gamut.
Sure.
If you want to compare, it should be like a bunch compared to a bunch.
Yeah.
And like getting that average. And then I know I said three things, but
I will say this though. He wasn't the only pastor that I ever
hmm
had. I
hmm
had multiple pastors, and not only that, but multiple preachers, within
Great,
Lutheranism, within different synods and
great,
denominations within Lutheranism.
great. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
So,
That's fair. Then the other thing then is like, yes, as you said, I just want to emphasize this the height of the mass is the Eucharist, the liturgy of the
sacrifice of the
this
Eucharist, of the Mass,
right.
yeah.
Yes. So then the liturgy of the word and like the homily is even just like a small part of the liturgy of the
Yes.
word.
Yes.
Like what would that be like if it were 20-30 minutes, which some homilies have been that long, but like is that the place for it? Maybe it's an unfair comparison because like you said, there's no sacrifice happening
Yeah.
in a
Well,
Protestant worship, but
mhm.
like in a Catholic service, right, like truly we have like true worship where we're sacrificing,
Mhm.
making present again that sacrifice at Calvary, and that's the height of the mass. And then the third thing, I guess, is like, well, thanks be to God, right? That I feel like we are protected from the failings of those priests, that whatever the circumstances may have been, that if they were not prepared or maybe they tried to prepare but they don't have the gifts, it's not about them, right? The
Mhm.
mass is about the Eucharist and worship and God. It's not about the priest that's doing the
Right.
homily.
No, it's true. Yeah.
So those are my three things.
So, about the time or the length of the homilies or the sermons for that matter,
Mm-hmm.
I just brought that up because that was just a fact of what a Protestant sermon looks like. It's just 20, 25, 30. You know what I mean?
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's quality over quantity. It could have been 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, or 10 minutes. I'm just, but the quality of the sermons, yeah, I miss a lot of
Mm-hmm.
those. And the pastor was prepared. He was talking to us where it was relevant and applicable, and it
Mm-hmm.
resonated with where we were at, and yeah, there was a lot of the focus, at least in confessional Lutheranism, a lot of the focus on the homilies is doctrine and theology.
Mm.
It's like they're catechizing us.
Yes.
You know, and you don't. That's not necessarily what a sermon, or at least especially what a homily is for. A homily is to dispose us for the liturgy of the Eucharist, to
Right.
prepare us for that. While expounding on God's written word and all that stuff. So, but yeah, you're right. You're right.
They're just not
So we
equivalent.
have daily mass. So like, imagine you're a Protestant and you only have Sunday or Wednesdays or whatever it is. But in the Catholic Church in the Western right, we have daily mass. Every day you can go to church and receive the Eucharist. Well, it's not required for the priest to give a homily at daily mass.
Mm.
So there have been times during the mass, the liturgy of the word and then the liturgy of the Eucharist, and the priest will literally just go sit down
Yeah.
after the gospel.
Sometimes I like those.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
So
quiet.
because it's not, in a sense, it's not pertinent to the worship. Now on Sundays they are obligated to give a homily
Mm-hmm.
on Sundays and holy days of obligation. But yeah, just daily mass they don't. So I mean, yeah, homilies aren't in Catholicism, they are not the apex of our. That it's not even worship in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yeah. But I do want to say I feel like that was such a gift or great thing about when I was exploring Protestantism, just seeing how talented the pastors were, and even just lay Protestants. I mean, I guess all of them would be non-pastor
yeah, yeah, that's
Protestants.
funny.
I don't know.
I
um,
understand what you mean.
yeah, but just how on fire they were, for the faith, at least the group that I fell in with, and just I think they teased out like just beauty of belief, and that
Mm-hmm.
it's not cheap, right? It's free, but it's not cheap. And I think they really expressed that for me at a time when it seemed like all the Catholic faith could do and the Catholic leadership could do was make all these, what do you call it, like little, like giving away of the faith, like by cheapening it down, like watering it down and not really showing us that it's something to die for, the way the saints did. I
Hmm.
was in California. There were, it's amazing. There were a lot of like really strong, very great communities in California. And that's what I fell in with. And now, like many of them are in religious life. Um, but then there were also like I think the majority, were not. And just like those types of cafeteria Catholics or pro-choice Catholics. And church leadership, who would say, yeah, you don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be this way. Rather than like, well, this is what God wants. And yeah, it's not easy, but this is what's right.
Yeah, there are Protestant pastors, preachers, whatever you want to call them, that would make amazing Catholics.
Mm.
I'm thinking of a few. Hopefully our viewers know of these, but Dr. James White is a famous public Reformed Baptist,
Mm.
quite anti-Catholic. I mean,
Mm.
he just is. But he's super intelligent and he's just on fire, and he really, gives all of his effort. He would just make such an exceptional Catholic, and
Mm.
oh my gosh, he could probably convert thousands of people
I
to
know,
Catholicism.
they're just so on fire.
And you know what's funny? Martin Luther Wright would make a good Catholic.
He was a
No.
Catholic.
See that's my point.
Oh.
When he was an Augustinian priest,
Mm.
you can't tell me he was as vocal or as brazen or as outspoken as when he was excommunicated or during his, the 95 Theses and all that.
You know why he became a priest, right?
Yeah, because he made a promise. Saint Anne got him out of that storm,
Mm.
and he thought he was going to die. He made a promise to Saint Anne for her intercession. He'd become a priest.
Oh, okay.
Is that not right?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I know
oh.
of. That's
Put,
what I
put me
know.
on the hot spot.
I was just like, oh.
But no, Martin Luther. If you read his works, I'm not commending them or praising them. Yeah, rather. But anyways, like if you took that energy and that fire and sanctified it and converted it and transfigured it, Martin Luther, if he had, if he were to transform from that Augustinian priest into a greater true reformer and remained a priest, well, he actually did. You can't get rid of your priesthood, but he would have been one of the greatest saints.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I don't know where he is right now. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying he's not, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So a lot of good Protestants out there. It just did make great Catholics. So, and yeah, that's really just some of the elements that I miss, and I wish I had in Catholicism. So
You always have the choice to go back.
yeah, I don't know what to say to that. I'm thankful for my Protestant upbringing.
Mm.
It was a path that led me to God, to Jesus Christ, and the fullness of the truth, fullness of revelation, and the church that Jesus Christ founded. So,
Yeah, I was just gonna say likewise, like when I was exploring Protestantism, I think it really galvanized me. And I had already made a decision to like redirect the course of my life to be more towards God. I just didn't know what that looked like. And I thought that that maybe meant being a Protestant.
mm-hmm.
But then, they just really brought on the pressure and it was amazing and it was great and
Mm-hmm.
it was such a beautiful experience. And yeah.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for another conversation.
Yeah. So if you're a convert or a revert to Catholicism from Protestantism, is there anything you miss or wish you had in Catholicism or in your experience as a Catholic? Yeah, comment below, or if you have any questions on how a Catholic could even miss things from Protestantism, ask, comment.
Or just
And
what you admire about Protestantism, even if you
yeah,
never were.
yeah,
There's a lot to admire. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, everyone. And if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe. See you and have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.